Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to Pocono Raceway, the tricky triangle in the heart of the Pocono Mountains, as it plays host to the season opener of Season 6 of the Dark Horse Racing Series, presented by Troy Lee Designs. 80 laps await these drivers here tonight in the Jim Brooks Wellness 200. 25 drivers will take the green. We've got the field intermingled with some old faces, some new faces, a couple of former champs in there as well. Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. Matt, I think the only thing we're missing here tonight is turn four.
Yep. Well, I think I can argue for about 5 turns here because turn one, two, three, and then four, five.
Yeah, well, maybe even six. Maybe even six corners. Sometimes drivers say that it feels like they're going through two corners when they make their way around, especially the wide sweeping turn one and the low bank turn three. But this evening, these drivers have a tough task ahead of them. This is, of course, with the season opener, their opportunity to, either maybe not get the season started off on a right foot and spend the rest of the first half of this season trying to mount a recovery of points lost, or on the flip side, have a great run here tonight, take a checkered flag, and then look to keep that momentum going.
I always say for the first race of the season, this is your momentum setter. You have a good finish here. Hey, you're feeling happy. You're ready for next race. You're ready for the whole season. You have a bad race here. You really have to pick yourself out of the dumps and say, hey, it's just one race. Next race, I can bounce back. So
We had
this is decision night.
we had an opportunity to talk with a few of the drivers here tonight, and we're going to be going to a lot of tracks here on the schedule that are aero dependent, but maybe no more so than here tonight at Pocono, because the main thing we heard from them was if you lose the toe, your race is over. You have to stay in the draft here tonight.
And it's a double-edged sword because, hey, close racing leads to contact 9 out of 10 times. But hey, if you fall too far off the pack, well, you've lost your chance of winning a race.
Qualifying is complete. We mentioned there are a couple of former champions in the field, and one of them is going to start on the pole here tonight in the 4D Raceware starting grid. Alongside of Eric Peterson, it's Rick Ravon. Row 2 is going to find Craig Forsyth, a multi-time winner. Charles Teed, same for him. And fourth position, and the top five going to be completed by Matt Wagner, who I believe in the last 3 seasons has gone to victory lane at least twice. So, some heavy hitters starting up here towards the front as we take you through the rest of the grid.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of intimidation factors of, I'm looking at this top five. These are 5 guys I don't want to be paired up against because I know on every week they can easily, what's a nice word to say, beat you about 5 different ways?
Yeah, just about. I would not count out Eric Schaus as well, rolling off from the 9th position. Former winner here as well at Pocono. Ended up, if I recall correctly, when he won that race, doing it on fuel strategy. I mean, what do we expect for that? Because we heard here tonight that they're fully expecting roughly around 19 to 20 laps on a tank of fuel, but that's if you stay in the draft. Let's say this thing gets really spread out. We know that the fuel consumption is going to be a little bit more when you're running by your lonesome, and these guys might end up finding themselves running out of fuel on strategy somewhere around 5 laps to go in the closing stages, depending on when and if the cautions fall.
Yeah, I'll throw a curveball with you that. I mean, if you can break this race in about 20 lap stints, if a caution comes out on lap 56, 57, that is decision time. Do you think you can save those extra few laps? That could be the make or break point where we could see another fuel mileage race.
Now, we should mention here this evening as well, people may be looking and saying this doesn't exactly look like the Pocono they recognize. That's because this is the legacy version of Pocono. And, you and I were talking before we came on the air about, the difference of if they ran the current version of Pocono as opposed to the legacy version here tonight. And obviously, these guys got their hands full with this particular version of Pocono, but might have had their hands full even more if we ran the current version.
Truth be told, I mean, yes, the new version is a lot smoother, but it is a little bit snappier off the corners as well. The old Pocono, yes, there's a lot of bumps, and yeah, it's a little bit worn. It's a lot tighter, and it seems a little bit easier to drive, so it's going to be a little bit more forgiving for those new guys in the back who may have experience of Indy cars, but not this generation of Indy car.
Rolling off the grid here behind the iRacing pace car. It looks like 24 of our 25 drivers actually rolled off the grid. Yari Brupacher missing at least the start here. We may see him start from pit lane. That's a shame because I'll tell you what, Pun intended, since this is the name of the series, but I was really looking at him to be a dark horse here for this season because we observed him last year. It was around like midway portion of the season. All of a sudden, he seemed to really figure it out. He was run up in the top 5 consistently, had 3 top 5s to finish out the season, and even a couple of times was in the conversation to pick up a checkered flag.
And that's the big thing where I could see guys who are just coming into this series for the first time. This is their first race. I can easily say, hey, I don't expect you to go out and win, but by the time we reach the end of the season, I expect you to be up near the front of the pack fighting for those wins because you'll have that experience at this point where you'll be able to take it and pretty much grow.
Well, Rick Ravon won this event back in Season 4. It was a 100-lap event at the time where he led 64 laps. I believe he started the race from the 17th position as well, so maybe track position not as important as one might think here today. We'll have to wait and see if some of those guys starting deep in the field might be able to make their way up to the front either through strategy or just through raw speed and the ability to be able to work the draft. But here we come down the front straightaway, and Season 6 of the Dark Horse Racing Series is green.
And they're already 3 wide back in the pack. Don't know who that is.
Against the wall there. That might be somebody trying to drop back, but this is a wide front straightaway, but it gets pretty narrow when you head into turn 1.
Now upon further inspection, I actually think that is A.J. Hobson, and A.J. Hobson really trying to make that outside work, passing 2-3 cars 3 wide.
Rick Ravon is gone for the race lead by about 2 car lengths side by side for second as Charles Teed on the bottom, Eric Peterson on the top, and you'll see this all race long. Watch as these cars kind of list like a boat here, bouncing off of this rough racing surface at Pocono.
Right now, everyone's really battling for position with the start of this race, trying to gain as much as they can. I see right now, I have to say, the person I see that looks most uncomfortable on track has to be Jeff Heisong. He's been bounced around 3 wide numerous times. He just does not look comfortable right now.
Eric Peterson swings around Rick Ravon. He'll go to the race lead. Ravon back to second. Now he crosses to the bottom. Look at this hornet's nest. Is that, I believe, Matt Wagner? That was Andrew Wood taking it 3 wide here through the tunnel turn.
And Charles Teed paid the price in that one. He slowly drops back.
Like maybe some connection problems there as well for Charles Teed, blinking in and out, but running in that 9th position. Whoa, way down there to the inside went one of those machines. Is that Teed again, I do believe. Maybe trying to get out of the way of these guys as back at the front, the do-si-do between Peterson and Ravon continues. And a big reason why they're doing this is they get such a run on each other, they make the pass quick, and they can keep the gap between themselves back to 3rd place Charles Teed.
Realistically, it doesn't make sense not to take the run, because if you stop and hold short of the run, you're pretty much just stalling out your run and leaving yourself vulnerable to the 3rd car in line.
Man, things got really tight back there with Moskowitz almost going up to the wall. Eric Schaus took a peek to the inside. Now he's under fire from Andrew Wood. That's the 4th, 5th, and 6th positions. And add Matt Wagner into this mix as well. So 5 cars throw a blanket over them, looking for that final spot on the podium, currently held by Forsyth.
There's 3 wide battles all over the field. Looks like Josh Tucker, Charles Teed, not sure who that was on the inside. They're all just kind of getting bunched up now, single filing back out.
I think that might have been Hacky Coates there. 3 wide battle for the final spot inside the top 10 is A.J. Hobson, Gary Corley. They're mixing it up. That's for P8. Oh, and now
Craig
Corley dealing
Forsyth.
with some problems there.
I don't think we saw very much of Craig Forsyth last season.
No, not very much. He ran a kind of a part-time schedule last year, limited number of starts. We, of course, saw him in the season finale, the Indy 500, but maybe we'll see him full-time this season. One name that's notably missing from the field, the multi-time champ, the defending champ of the series, Nick DeGroot. You have to wonder if we'll end up seeing him at any point during the course of this season.
Yeah, obviously with the big difference this season being the day change from Wednesdays to Sundays, we've got a lot of new faces, but obviously some faces are missing.
Right, absolutely. As now Schaus is going to go to the inside of Craig Forsyth. I did notice he didn't run nearly as wide this time through turn 3, but I think that Dylan Moskowitz might be on a first-name basis with the outside wall there through the final 3rd corner, because he ran just about as high as I think you could go, but without those exposed open wheels on the right side making contact with the safer barrier.
Yeah, he's kind of close a few times, but I still don't see any damage on the side of the 4 car, so I'm pretty confident he knows the limit, but he's going to find it real quick if he hits that fence.
Riding on board with Eric Schaus. Boy, you saw right there Craig Forsyth get on the rumble strips. I remember you were taking a couple test laps around here, and that was the biggest thing you complained about was how those rumble strips unsettled the race car.
Yeah, it's the thing of you need to lift in turn 5 just a little bit, especially in draft. But it's the fact of you think you can kind of angle the car so you don't have to lift at all, but you touch the rumble strip, it unsettles the car. It doesn't want to wreck it, but it'll unsettle it just enough to make you uncomfortable.
Saw right there with the telemetry on the bottom right of your screen with this onboard on the 72, almost 230 miles per hour by the time they got down into turn 1. I mean, these cars are both literally and figuratively flying right now.
And right now, here's my biggest wonder, is how well are those right side tires doing? How well are these cars doing on tires regardless? Because I'm thinking, obviously not taking tires on your pit stop will maybe save you about a second or two. Is it worth it?
Well, to answer your question right there, we know that obviously the tires can take the most pressure, especially with the low banking in turn 3. It's going to be that right front. Going to want to push you up the racetrack on corner exit and get the wall, which I believe Andrew Wood might have done last time by. I think he just brushed that outside wall.
And Eric Peterson got a really bad entry in the 1. Kind of opened up the door for Craig Forsyth to shove it on down low. Same thing for Eric Schaus. Looks like Peterson makes a really aggressive block to try and cut him off and do a cut or crossover.
Yeah, kind of a combo block and move for a position, right? Yeah, you could barely fit a car in between those two. As Schaus rather wide there off a 3, he may have gotten the outside wall. Either that or had to lift a ton to avoid it, and that puts Matt Wagner right on his, well, I can't say back bumper because they don't have bumpers, but we'll say just on his back door.
Really what I think happened to Schaus is with Peterson kind of cut in front of him and took away the air on his nose and just kind of got him a little bit unsettled, really be tight, and kind of launched him towards the wall. Wagner's trying to take advantage of it, but Wagner's been one of those guys where he's kind of silently lurks as he works his way up the field. I would not be surprised to see him break his way into top 3 in the next 10, 20 laps.
You know, you touched on a really good point right there as well with the fact we were talking about pre-race that the draft and being in the air is going to help you to stay up in the lead pack. But on the flip side, if you're running in somebody's draft going into a corner, it's definitely going to upset the nose and kind of hinder the ability to be able to turn that car into the corner.
Woo, Charles Teed, Jim Brooks, Jeff Hysong were in a really bad spot. Looks like they're kind of getting a little bit of a hornet's nest here.
Hysong now going to drop back a few positions as Charlie Teed will take that spot. Jim Brooks now with David Cook. David Cook, we're used to seeing up there running usually with Rick Ravon, started very deep in the field from the 11th position, has lost 3 spots since the drop of the green flag. But tell you what, there is battling all through this field, but so far these guys have kept it clean. Jim Brooks, he got the wall pretty good there off of turn 3, almost came down to the right rear of David Cook.
And it looks like there's a little bit of damage to the side pod, a little bit of damage to the aero device on the side. I'd be a little bit concerned in longer runs how it's going to affect it. Obviously, it looks a lot tighter than it did before.
Oh yeah, and now he's really having trouble right there, turning off of turn 1 as Josh Tucker, Gary Corley, AJ Hobson, they're mixing it up right now, leading this second pack. That's a 7th place on back. And, you know, one thing that we should also make mention of for those that are diehard fans of the Dark Horse Racing Series and maybe wondering, yes, these drivers do have the faster pair in place here this season. They have
CJ Hallman took out the wall. He
And
managed to keep it straight, but...
And Jim Brooks is coming to pit road here as well to obviously, I would assume, get that right side damage repaired. Maybe taking on that faster pair here. Wow, having to check up was Joseph Morales after the 58 of CJ Holman was a little bit slower going through turn 1.
And that's the thing where it's not the fact that he wants to be in the way. No. It's the fact that these cars are coming about 220 miles an hour. And hey, when you have to slow up like that, you have to make these split-second decisions, and no decision is really the correct one, it seems.
back from Rick Ravon to Craig Forsyth. That's about 3-4 car lengths right now. He hasn't hit over the 27. Now, much like a super speedway, the car that's out in front is creating the draft with the cars behind and will be using up more fuel. So, when we eventually get to that around target lap 19, 20, wherever it may be, no doubt the one's going to more than likely be one of the first to have to dip onto pit road.
Andrew Wood is one guy that I've really been watching that I've kind of been impressed with the first 10 laps. I mean, he's been slowly working his way up. He's not blazing fast, but he's taking his chances where he gets opportunities at. Like I said, I've seen him try to make a move on Peterson, and he fails almost every time, but I see him continue to learn, and that's the big thing where he continues to use that information like, okay, that's not working. This is not working. Let me try this.
Wood rolled off from the 7th position, currently running in 6th as, wow, that was a big wiggle by Eric Peterson off of turn 1. Nice job of hanging on to it, but now he's got Wood and Wagner there side by side behind him, trying to make their way up further into the top 5. And that, that's an interesting thing too. We talk about all the new faces that are in the field here tonight and that we'll see during the course of this season. That doesn't mean they're rookies. That doesn't mean this is their first time in an Indy car. It just means it's their first time in the league. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see a lot of these names we haven't seen on the regular season in and season out. See what they're able to do against guys that we've seen pretty well established in the Dark Horse Racing Series.
I'll also bring that where this may be some of the guys' first time in a DW12 car as opposed to the IR18. I know a big thing that came up in practice was someone was asking, hey, where are all my in-car adjustments? Do I not have access to those? Well, these cars never had in-car adjustments available on iRacing. The IR18, yes, you can adjust the weight jackers, you can adjust the wing, you can do a whole bunch of other stuff in the car, but with these, it's really just a driver, and you have to kind of work with what you got.
Craig Forsyth reeled in Rick Ravon for the top position, got by him for a brief moment. Ravon implemented the crossover, took the position back, and looked like Forsyth might have gotten his left sides on one of those rumble strips. It unsettled him for a brief moment, lost some ground, but he's coming right back. And Eric Schaus is coming with him. That's 72. He's about to reel in the top 2 all by his lonesome. No draft, no assistance needed.
Now I actually have to kind of ask you a question. I've seen the field are catching up to Jim Brooks a little bit. Do you think Ravon's going to maybe try to hang behind him just for a little bit, try to save some fuel, maybe get some draft off him, or do you think he's just going to blow past him?
Well, I mean, we were talking earlier about with the crossovers we were seeing between Ravon and Eric Peterson, where you get that run, you've got to take it. I don't see how you can stay behind Jim Brooks. I mean, you catch him with such a rate of speed, knowing that you've got the draft behind of Forsyth and Schaus. It'd just be too much momentum that you would give up if you back off and try and keep the 51 in front of you, I feel.
They're 2 by 2 right now, battling Jeff Hysong on the bottom, David Cook on the top, same with AJ Hobson. They're all just kind of jockeying for position. Obviously, they can tell they've lost the pack, or they've lost this big main pack. But obviously, we're trying to be the leader of this second pack. And hey, this really opens up the opportunity if you want to maybe play around with pit strategy or something. Try to get the guys around you almost in the Hysong.
That was close. I think they made contact there, did Hobson and Hysong. That's Hysong on the top and Hobson with the 63 on the bottom.
Josh Tucker sent it in there. He was hoping it would stick, and it did.
Josh Tucker amongst a trio of drivers that have picked up numerous spots since the start of this race. He's up 6 positions. Eric Schaus also up 6 positions in 3rd place. Biggest move of the race so far, though. Right now in P14, that's Thaddeus McMurray. He's up 8 spots from his 22nd starting position.
You want to talk about a guy who's fallen off a cliff, though. Charles Teeds dropped 8 positions, and, ignoring Jim Brooks, who had to make that unscheduled pit stop for damage, he is really the biggest loser in all this. And you got to wonder, what is the change? What changes so much from qualifying to race that causes you to lose that much time?
Well, let's also remember in the case of Charles Teed, though, he was dealing with some connection problems in the opening stages, so I think that might have been a big reason why he dropped back. I don't think it had anything to do with the speed he had in the race car. Lap 19 about to be completed, Matt, so pit road in just a few moments here, maybe this lap or the upcoming lap, it's about to be a very busy place, and while you've got a wide access area to get onto pit lane, there's a lot of places you can trip up with this pit road. Oh, caution!
Josh Tucker spinning in 2 or 3
man.
or 4.
Well, it's not 4. You got it. You had 3 chances and you picked a turn that didn't exist.
Oh, I think you got a little bit of help around.
And he had a fast race car too, was picking his way up through the field, was just on the outside of the top 10 before this caution coming out. And that has all the looks of a faster pair for sure here with a quarter of this race over. And oh, there goes all the talk about these drivers having to worry about green flag pit stops. They don't have to worry about it at least just yet, as they'll be coming down pit road with pit road open this time by right on the mark of when they probably would have come down under green flag conditions.
Ah, man, I'm looking at it, and it looks like our old friend Gapwack has returned back for another season, but I I think it really just a disagreement of space. He didn't know he was that low. He didn't know he was up there, and just kind of met in the middle and spun right on around. Luckily, he kind of self-contained the car up in the high lane, and no one else hit him.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing that I was really surprised about when we dropped back and looked at him was I was expecting that car to still be spinning or be in a very bad position on the racetrack since it was in the middle of the corner. Very lucky it drifted up to that safer bear and he was able to hold it up
now
there with oncoming traffic.
he did wreck it again in 3, trying to limp it back to the pit road. Looks like he lost the back end, ended up just towing now. But the big thing is we've been racing for 20 laps, and we've been seeing those kind of sketchy moves for the past 20 laps, and this is the first incident. Do you think any drivers will cool off after this? Maybe give it a little bit of break, or do you think they just kind of finally learned that limit of, hey, we can lean, but we just can't push?
I think that definitely a lot of going to school took place there in those opening 20 laps. So, boy, I'll tell you, I don't know how to answer that question because it may be a case of now I know what my car is capable of doing. I'm confident with making the more aggressive moves, or it might be a case of, yeah, you know what? I've figured it out. I'm going to kind of keep this in my hip pocket for later on in the race, not show my hand too early.
And I saw Eric Peterson and Craig Forsyth enter pit road side by side. Craig Forsyth is just trying to jump as many spots as he can on pit road, trying to get as many spots as possible. And it looks like he's actually going to lose a few spots.
Now, it is looking like potentially Josh
Now,
Tucker may be out of this race. It does not look like he took on his faster pair at all. I don't know if this is a case of. I remember that there was a point where we ended up having last season drivers that would take on a faster pair. There'd be a bit of a glitch that would take place, and they would have to leave the server, come back in. They'd lose a couple of laps as a result. I don't know if that's the case here for Josh, if we'll see him back on the track in a couple of laps, or if he is officially done. I'll tell you who this caution really helped, Matt. 2.5 miles to get around Pocono. Jim Brooks came down, made that pit stop, took on his faster pair, and stayed on the lead lap. So he definitely got saved as he was only about, what, 8, 9 car lengths ahead of the leaders when that caution came out?
yeah, but speaking on the Josh Tucker situation, what I really think that is it wasn't really any problem with the car, but I think it really just kind of frustration where, I mean, hey, yeah, it's 20 laps into the new season. Hey, I just got in a wreck, and I wrecked it trying to get back to pit road. I had to tow, and it's going to be a 3-minute tow. Hey, I'm going to go 1-2 laps down by the time I get out, and I'm going to be down a faster pair. I think that's what he's thinking, so he just decided to go ahead and park it for tonight. One guy I'm really surprised that is dropping down the field now is CJ Hallman. Holloman. I saw him coming down pit road, and he was on pit road when the caution flag flew. So I was under the impression he was taking service and then he was going to cycle out as leader, but it looks like he's dropping back to the back of the pack.
I might feel more comfortable back there. What was he past the commitment line when the caution
Yeah,
came out?
he was
Oh,
past the commitment line and everything. It was
oh.
interesting. Weird.
You saw Brandon Carl right there come down pit road, stayed out an extra lap, got himself, I guess, a bonus point for a lap led, and now turns the race lead back over to Rick Ravon. A tough break
I
there for
like
Josh.
this. I
Yeah,
like this idea because here's the thing. You may not think of it too much right now, but that one extra lap, hey, that can be a game changer. Hey, you can go 20 laps and the guy in front of you can go 1 lap less. Hey, a caution comes out that 1 extra lap. Hey, you didn't have to pit and you get to cycle back out without losing a lap. I
you a
think it's
little
pretty good.
you a little surprised we didn't see some more drivers maybe outside the top 15 come down, just top off the fuel tank as well.
I mean, it's worth a shot. Just try anything. I mean, realistically, here's kind of my thought on it. Where if I'm right now, I don't have really the speed to compete with the front guys. I don't think I'm going to be as fast as them. I can't stay on the same strategy as them because how am I going to beat them on the same strategy with less speed? So if I can get a little bit crafty, if I can kind of think of a different strategy, maybe get myself off cycle, try something different, it'll give me maybe a little bit more of an advantage where I can take it and say, hey, let's try this.
Well, folks, partner with the Dark Horse Racing Series is Sim Wrap Market. Check out them out at simwrapmarket.com and get 10% off any order when you use the promo code DarkHorse10 at simwrapmarket.com. They're a sponsor of Charles Teed, who right now is in that 10th position. Maybe another guy that this caution helped his ability now to be back up in the lead pack after dealing with the connection issues in the opening stages.
You see Rick Ray Vaughn trying to play some games on the restart. Got a little bit of a jump. Eric Schaus, Craig Forsyth's with him. Same thing with Eric Peterson, but Andrew Wood got a terrible restart.
Yeah, the ruling here in this series is once that pace car ducks onto pit lane, race leader can accelerate at any point he wants, giving them the advantage. But you're right, Eric Schaus stuck
Wow,
right
Jason
with
Hand
him.
is just dropping through the field. He did not go on that restart.
And he is all the way back at the tail end of the field. Now Eric Schaus going to take the top position heading through the tunnel turn. He'll clear for the spot. Now Rick Rabon under fire from Craig Forsyth. Eric Peterson right there as well. 4-car breakaway.
I'm kind of seeing Eric Peterson sitting back here, and I can kind of see the wheels turning in his head where, do I want to get involved in this right now, or do I want to kind of let this one settle out?
Well, they've got about 0.8 of a second back to the 5th place battle between Andrew Wood and Jeff Highsong, so why ruin a good thing right now? They've kind of scampered away from the remainder of the top 5 back to around the top 15 in pack number 2. But we saw this a lot last season as well, where like the first 5 or 6 cars would get the memo of, hey, the leader is going. It would always seem to be that 7th or 8th place car that did not get the memo would either spin the tires or just not get going, and we would see the top 5 or 6 be able to break away from the rest of the field, and that's what we're kind of seeing right here with the top 4.
Hey, I've been advocating for it all past 3 seasons. Let's go double file.
I think you're a madman. Here's a battle for 10th. Hacky Coates, Charles Teed right there. You've also got Thaddeus McMurray in the 37, Gary Corley in the 7 machine also. A lot of drivers in close proximity here from about 6th back to the 14th position in pack number 2.
It looks like that pack number 2 just kind of caught right back up to that main 4. They've all kind of reeled themselves back in, and I know the top 4 probably are kicking themselves for that because they could have had a nice breakaway. They could have tried to single themselves out. But right now, they're going 3 wide in the back.
That is, I believe, Hobson in the middle. No, he's actually on the inside. Matt Wagner was the car in the middle, and Jeff Highsong was on the bottom. They settled it out to
3 wide up front, too.
How about that? Andrew Wood, big run. Took him
He thought better of it.
Very smart, very smart. I don't think you want to go 3 wide here into turn 1, especially what you saw right there. You saw the 64 of Andrew Wood hit that bump there in turn 1. It shot his race car up a groove and a half through the center of the corner.
That's the thing. David Cook's trying to look to the inside of Eric Peterson to pass. Does not get a hole, but Eric Peterson trying something 2 wide.
Into turn 2. A couple of guys really wide there out of turn 3. Looked like one of those was Matt Wagner. As Andrew Wood, I'll tell you what, Andrew Woods, after he and the rest of that second group caught up to the lead pack, he's kind of playing spoiler here, but he got taken 3 wide. That was David Cook with the gutsy move into turn 1. He just picked up 2 spots, now from 6th to 4th.
I respect Andrew Wood being very cautious and not trying to push it 3 wide unnecessarily this early in the race. But I definitely hope as the race kind of progresses on, as we get closer to lap 7, lap 80, that he kind of gets that idea of, hey, I've got to kind of push in these 3 wide situations. I can't always lift. I think it's, again, one of those kind of early in the race things. He's just being cautious, but kind of keeping that in the back of your head of, hey, don't make a habit of it or else start taking advantage of it.
Only one driver at this point in time has utilized their faster pair, that being Jim Brooks. You were talking about CJ Holloman and wondering why he came back down pit road again. I think we kind of got our answer. Appears that when he might have gotten up and gotten the wall, he's dealing with that damage. He is quite a bit off the pace right now, running a lap down to the race leaders, and the lap
AJ
time.
Hobson, he's really trying to attack the bottom, almost up to 5th.
And he is going to, well, not quite be able to stay to the left rear quarter panel of Peterson. That outside line got the momentum down the straight from turn 2 to turn 3, and he's actually starting to go backwards now, getting freight trained on that top side.
Yeah, it looks like...
Is that a case of the right front tire heat there? The ability to not stay in the throttle as much down that inside line with it wanting to push up?
It could be a little bit of heat, but it also could be a lot of aero. This is a very aero-dependent track where you saw with Jim Brooks, a little piece of the car gets damaged, it will affect the handling, will affect the speed. I think that's really what's happening here, where just that little bit of damage is thrown a little bit out of whack.
It's the first time today that we've seen Rick Ravon, the pole sitter, back in traffic. It's called two cars traffic, but it's the first time he's had to really deal with his car dealing with that aero push and having the air affected in front of him. He had clean air for the first 20 laps of this race.
Matt Wagner shot out of a bullet. He just shot his way past Eric Peterson.
And right now in the 7th position, also noticing that Jim Brooks, after having that contact in the wall off of turn 3, having to come to pit lane under green flag conditions, take on that faster pair, but caught the caution at the right time to stay on the lead lap. He's now making his way back up into the top 15, just got by Thaddeus McMurray moments ago and just bypassed Hackey Coates for 13th. So the 51 making his way back up here to the front. And of course here tonight as
look at Andrew Wood. He's going to get tight off of 4.
Wow, almost pushed up right into David Cook in that 3rd place battle. That was tight off of turn 3.
Oh, he may have a run here for the lead.
And he get to the inside of Schaus, yes he can. He's got some draft as well, the aid of Rick Ravon. What a move. Andrew Wood for the first time here in the Dark Horse Racing Series is out in front and leading the field.
That's it. Definitely got my eye on him. He was kind of put in a really bad situation out of 2 and 3, and he kind of made it work and just kind of took a run and ran with it.
Matt Wagner, Eric Peterson, AJ Hobson slicing and dicing back here. That's David Cook diving it low on Forsyth. There's going to be 3 wide. Ravon's going to be on the top there. Contact between Forsyth and David Cook. Nice save by the 6 who keeps his foot in the throttle.
I bet there's some choice words being said.
Oh boy, a little argument over space, but they all keep their noses pointed in the right direction for the moment. Cook's going to clear Matt Wagner and slot into 5th position. Don't know if that did any damage potentially to that right front wing on David Cook. Looking back here from Forsyth, nope, front wing looks pretty good there. No damage sustained, at least from what we're seeing.
Yeah, what it looks like is both cars just kind of hit themselves on the tires, and it didn't really do very much, but definitely unsettled both cars. See Matt Wagner trying to make it 3 wide here.
It's looking like all of a sudden the exit of turn 3 down this long front straightaway, where a lot of these guys, at least up towards the front, are utilizing as their main passing area.
Yeah, because really a lot of these cars are getting tight. I mean, you see the cars kind of missing their entry into 3, getting all the way up out of the groove. It slows them down so much where if you kind of angle that corner perfectly, you can shoot out like a bullet and do exactly what Andrew Wood did, pass 2 or 3 cars unexpectedly.
Turn 3 for sure with the lowest banking on the racetrack, all about throttle control and the ability to keep that momentum up down the front straightaway. Ravon going to take the lead back here from Andrew Wood, and Eric Schaus I think might have had to bail out of the throttle a little bit there in turn 3. David Cook will look to take advantage.
Yeah, Matt Wagner, it's almost, Seth, you'll probably understand this reference more than anyone else will, but it really seems like NR 2003 Daytona here, where it's kind of that inside line kind of keeps shuffling people forward and the outside line keeps dropping people back, and it has that rotation where it'll just keep ebbing and flowing.
Yeah, and I think a big reason for that is when you're on that top side, it doesn't take very long for you to get to that outside wall off of turn 3, whereas if you're on the inside line, you got a little bit more of an opportunity to breathe the throttle and not make contact with that safer barrier. As now Ravon back to the point. He and Andrew Wood, they keep shuffling it back and forth. I'd keep an eye on David Cook and Craig Forsyth, though, because, yeah, I don't know if the 6 made a move or if he got a little bump from behind there from Forsyth, but they were very close wing to wing there down the front straightaway.
Yeah, see, I don't really know what's going on between those two. I mean, I'd like to believe that the bumps are just accidental, but I don't really know at this point.
Well, they call this place the Tricky Triangle. 3 corners, entirely different in terms of banking. Turn 1's got the most banking, 14 degrees, fashioned after Trenton Speedway in New Jersey. Turn 2, known as the tunnel turn's got 8 degrees of banking as Schaus continues to get so close to that wall off of turn 3. The tunnel turn modeled after Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, these guys, they're looking forward to that season finale, the Indy 500. And then turn 3, the lowest amount of banking, 6 degrees of banking fashioned after the Milwaukee Mile. Another thing that we talked about here before we came on the air, the schedule this season, 13 races in total, all speedways, no road courses. So it's really going to be all about, I think, the script's going to be the same week after week. Stay in the draft, be able to utilize the air, and of course, I think pit strategy is going to play a huge part into this season as well.
Yeah, it's going to force some of these guys a little bit outside of their comfort zone because some of these guys kind of looked at those road courses and kind of said, hey, this is my race to shine. This is really where I can kind of stretch my legs, and this is a safety win for me, or a good points day for me. Well, now they don't really have that to rely on, so you really have to kind of master these ovals, kind of figure out right in front.
No,
Forsyth's around.
No caution as the spin apparently took place down the infield crash. I think Eric Schaus may have either been the one that tagged him or had to really get on the brakes to avoid, but no caution will wave.
It definitely looked like a bit of gap whack. It looks like Eric Schaus pushed up the track just a little bit, got into the left corner of Andrew Wood, and at that point Craig Forsyth was kind of an innocent bystander as he got caught with both cars and kind of got sent for a ride. Looks like Andrew Wood's not really damaged, but Eric Schaus kind of took the brunt of that. Same thing with Craig Forsyth. Craig Forsyth's seen better days.
Yeah, Andrew Wood now back to 15th. Schaus fell back to 18th, and Forsyth all the way back to 22nd. So
I mean, he has no rear wing.
That's a trio that are praying for a caution to come out here, but no yellow saving them. There you
Seth,
see,
how much,
no rear wing.
How much downforce is that 27 getting?
I think he's getting a lot of straightaway speed. There's nothing to hinder his arrow in the back, but that thing's got to be on ice skates, I would think, when he goes into the corners.
That's what we call an unguided missile.
My goodness. That's a lawn dart.
But obviously right now that kind of changes the complexion of the top, really 5. David Cook kind of takes advantage. He pulls way to the lead. Rick Ray Vaughn behind, Matt Wagner, Jeff Heisong, and Eric Peterson. They're all kind of strung out. Top 3 are kind of separated by their own little bit. Or sorry, top 2 is kind of separated by their own little bit.
And we look back here, and you've got Jim Brooks. He's now made his way up into the top 10. Same for Dylan Moskowitz in the 4. So you talk about the front of the field kind of changing in terms of the people there. Top 10 changed with those 3 drivers having that incident down the Long Pond Straight. And of course, tonight, this race, the Jim Brooks Wellness 200. And of course, Matt, I think you've got the story of that. A bit of a special race here tonight for driver 51.
Yeah, I'd say we're really very fortunate to have Jim Brooks here with us. Currently, he's battling cancer, kind of staying strong, working through that. Seth, I'm not really great with these kind of speeches.
Well, I'll tell you, if Jim Brooks, we've seen him in the past be very close to getting the victory. I remember last season or the season prior, New Hampshire, had a dominant car there, almost was able to pick up the victory. I mean, can you imagine if he takes the checker flag here tonight? Talk about a popularity win.
I mean, think about New Hampshire last season. Think about how big of a party that would have been.
Yeah, absolutely. As up at the front, we've seen this duo work together before, David Cook and Rick Ray Vaughn, and right now they're kind of doing the do-si-do. One takes a turn out in front, the other takes a turn out in front. They swap it back and forth, and with doing so, they've been able to maintain over a second back to Matt Wagner, Jeff Heisong, Eric Peterson and company.
And really, the idea with this is they're really just trying to keep leapfrogging themselves where, hey, they can make a big breakaway from the top. Or third on behind. Matt Wagner comes in the pit road.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've hit lap 40 or past lap 40, so the window is open when we would start to see drivers duck onto pit lane.
McMurray.
And Thaddeus McMurray, yep, they're on pit road. A couple more further back there. I think that's Jason Hand and Eric Schaus.
I'm not surprised we haven't seen Craig Forsyth come in the pit road yet, but he's still making it work.
Yeah, I'm looking at his lap times right now, and he's been running in the mid-42s. That's roughly about a full second slower than the guys that are up in the front. So I think right now what he's basically just doing is hoping and praying for a caution to come out. He'll come to pit road when he absolutely has to, but I think he was hoping that maybe he'd get a lifeline.
Charles T, Dylan Moskowitz, Song, Cook, and Ray Vaughn all on the pit road.
That half dozen drivers come to pit road. Some more join them there from further back in the field. That turns the race lead over
Oh.
to Eric Peterson in the 36.
So I did notice Eric Schaus stopped in his pit box, had about a 23-second pit stop. I think he had to repair something in the car, make it a little bit more drivable. Did not use a fast repair, though.
Did not. However, Andrew Wood, who came down pit road the same lap as Eric Schaus, he did take on his fast repair. So he will not have his mulligan for the second half of this race.
And Jim Brooks has his hand out the window. He's getting ready to come on in. Same thing with AJ Hobson and Eric Peterson.
Very wide pit road, about 3 lanes there for entry to get onto pit road, 60 miles per hour. The pit road speed, that's a far cry from the near 230. We were seeing these drivers turn and draft, got to whoa these machines down, and maybe not as difficult a pit road to get onto here tonight as what we will see when we go next week to Auto Club, the asphalt to concrete transition. It's asphalt to asphalt here, so same amount of grip and a little bit more of an opportunity for the brakes to take and not overshoot your stall.
Yeah, the big difficulty here of getting on pit road is really how tight you get off of 3, and then obviously trying to weigh down your IndyCar from 230 to all the way to 60 miles an hour, where that transition usually throws a lot of people off. They lock up the tires. There's a little bumps on entry, but it doesn't unsettle the car enough. It's not like Indy where it unsettles the car and wants to make it wreck. Auto Club, though, with that concrete pit road, you will easily slide through those boxes. When you're trying to brake, you'll easily lock up the tires, slide it in. That's where you kind of have to be a little bit more concerned.
Dylan Moskowitz back on pit lane for some reason. He is going to, I think, lose a lap as a result of this. I'm pretty sure this is the second time down pit road because he was inside the top 10 when the cycle of pit stops began.
I'd say I'm not exactly sure why. It doesn't look like he had a penalty leaving pit road, though.
This is a long stay.
I'd say it's timing like a penalty, but I don't see any reason he would have a penalty.
Elmer Joseph in the 13 making his debut in the Dark Horse Racing Series, also on pit road, and a rather lengthy stay for him also. So once things cycle around, looks like we're going to have 20 of our 23 drivers on the lead lap. And we're a couple of laps away maybe from having another driver put a lap down. You'll notice just on the same straight there's the 27 of Craig Forsyth, about half a straightaway ahead of the race leader, David Cook.
I'm looking back here through the field, trying to see where everyone kind of sorts out. Obviously, Craig Forsyth did come in. He ended up using his fast... No, he didn't. Forsyth did not use his fast repair. Huh.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that there is a thing where you can get the rear wing and the front wing put back onto the race car. There are replacement wings, and that actually does not qualify as a fast repair.
Huh. Man, that was an impressive attachment of a wing for 23 seconds.
Right? I'm pretty certain I remember last season there were a couple
had no
of times
engine cover.
Drivers... I think there were a couple of times last season where drivers would have a wing missing on the front or be missing a nose, and they could actually get a replacement nose put back onto the race car, and it did not classify as a fast repair. So that might have been something similar to what happened there with Craig Forsyth.
Obviously, field's kind of stretched out now. Realistically, when you're starting in this situation, you've got a little bit of 2 options where if you're in range of a leader like Matt Wagner, Jeff Hysong, Eric Peterson, those kind of guys, you're trying to make a plan like, hey, let's work together. Let's try and leapfrog up to them. Let's try and catch these guys. We're more cars. We got more power. We can reach them.
Yeah, they're catching them. The last time by, they were about 2.5 tenths quicker. This time by, about a tenth quicker. So they are pretty quickly catching up to the top 2. They're doing a good job of keeping that momentum up. 3 cars are currently faster than 2 cars.
Now, a side strategy here, if you're someone like Andrew Wood, Perry, you know you have the speed to be one of those top cars, but you're just not in that situation right now. I'd be looking more towards fuel mileage. I'd be looking towards strategy. Hey, how can I outfox these guys in front? What kind of weird strategy can I kind of put myself on where I can maybe leapfrog up with an opportune caution or something of that sort?
So these drivers, for the most part, came down pit road between laps 42 to 44. Obviously, the field is spread out quite a bit, but I think even with the 2 extra laps that they were able to run before even our first drivers dove onto pit road, theoretically, we've only got 1 more pit stop to decide this race, and that's going to more than likely be the money stop unless a caution comes out between now and that checker.
Let me hit you with a wacky strategy. Come down on 54 and fill up as much fuel as you can. Try to shortcut, undercut pit. Race out your 20 laps. Cycle out to the lead. Cross your fingers for a caution. I mean, if you're back in like 15th, 16th place, I mean, in my personal opinion, I'm not going to win this on speed. I'm not going to win this staying on the same strategy. So why don't we try something different? Because either way, it looks like I'm going to finish back about sub 15, about 15-ish. Why don't I try something to try to get me into a good points position?
Only problem I have with that, though, is kind of similar to Indianapolis as well. If you're outside of the top 10 and you're way back like some of these guys, you come down pit road, you are guaranteed
I don't know
to lose
who
a
that
lap.
was. That was CJ Holloman. He is way slow.
Way down on the inside line there. Like he was trying to use the access road through turn 3, and he may be heading for pit lane.
I'd say a rough day got rougher.
Holloman making his first start here in the Dark Horse Racing Series. Back to your question, the only problem I have is if a caution comes out, great, but I don't see if you pit from outside of the top 10. I mean, right now, 10th place Don Day is running 6.5 seconds behind the race leader. You come down pit road, I guarantee you, you're going a lap down. Caution comes out, well, your first car 1 lap down, that's good, you get the lucky dog, but you have to start the tail end of the lead lap. So basically, nothing changed, you're still back there.
That's it. It's risk versus reward. You got to trust the system. You got to hope. You got to hope that it's going to cycle out. Ooh, man, it almost got really tight there of Don Day and Thaddeus McMurray.
You saw Don Day dart it way down there towards the inside wall off of turn 3, trying to take away any opportunity to side draft. Thaddeus McMurray all of a sudden disappeared. He's back in that 37. Andrew Wood in this mix as well in the 64, trying to pick up the spots that he lost. This is a heck of a comeback run for Andrew Wood, who was involved in that spin by Craig Forsyth and Eric Schaus that didn't bring out the yellow. He had dropped back as far as 15th position, and that pass right there on Thaddeus McMurray, he's now back up inside of the top 10.
I'm seeing Charles Teed kind of slowly rebound here. He's kind of been one of those top 10 cars, but he's bounced all the way from about 15th all the way to 5th. So he's kind of evened out right now. I think he's kind of in that good position where he's got people around him, but I'm fairly confident they want to make it to the end same. So I don't think they're going to battle too aggressively, but I see AJ Hobson pull side by side. I kind of question that.
Yeah, Hobson and Jim Brooks are the other two drivers here with Charles Teed. As of right now, Eric Peterson, AJ Hobson, and Jim Brooks have 1 extra lap of fuel over everybody else. They were the last trio to come to pit lane when the cycle of pit stops began. If the numbers stay the same, Matt Wagner currently running in P3 and kind of leading this group with himself, Hysong, and Eric Peterson up to the top 2. He would be the first one to come down pit road to begin that final cycle of green flag pit stops. Something I've noticed here too, Matt, I don't know what exactly has changed, but these 3 were reeling in the top 2. All of a sudden, it's kind of steadied out where, oh, we got some smoke here off of turn 2. Was that, I'm noticing Jason Hand is no longer on my telemetry. Was that the 00?
I'm just looking back here. I think it was the 00. Let me just double check here.
No caution,
yeah,
though.
Looks like he caught the outside of turn 2 just a little bit. Ended up rolling it in the infield. And then he ended up just, looks like alt F4ing, so he ended up parking it for the day.
No caution, though, for Jason Hand, who looks like he'll end up finishing 23rd here tonight in his first career start in the Dark Horse Racing Series. You know, we talked about the fact that this was going to be a difficult track here this evening for all drivers, and looks like some of the new faces has been a bit of a trial by fire. You know, by the time we get to the end of the season, though, racing with these guys week in, week out, they'll have gotten used to the racing styles. They'll have picked something up along the way, and, you know, kind of maybe a Yari Brupacher story from last season. We'll start seeing them consistently up inside of the top 10 and top 5.
So I'll give some of the new guys a pass here tonight because, again, they call it the tricky triangle for a reason. It's not easy to really race here. All 3 corners are different, and they have different perspectives and how you're supposed to enter them. Where, I mean, listen, for someone who's new to this car or someone who's kind of just, again, I know we have some new guys to iRacing starting out in this service. Pocono is not the easiest track to learn. It's not the easiest track to start on. Auto Club will be a little bit different. I think it'll be a lot easier for some of these guys kind of sink their teeth into where they can take what they learned from this week and kind of put it towards next week. With a lot of practice, I think they'll be able to easily get a handle on that track.
You saw the bright green 72 of Eric Schaus, former winner here at Pocono, get put a lap down by David Cook and Rick Ravon. Also important that Craig Forsyth bypassed Eric Schaus. Forsyth still ahead of the leaders on the tail end of the lead lap. Eric Schaus currently would be in the free pass position should we get a caution. And look at that telemetry up there on the top, Matt. 24 laps to go. We're about 5 laps or so removed from that final pit stop of the day. And then, barring any cautions, it's basically you got what you got till the checkered flag.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that pack of 3 seems to be reeling back in the leaders again. Just kind of very slowly but
Ooh.
surely.
Boy, I'll tell you what, though, we almost had ourselves a wreck. Eric Schaus trying to stay out of the way of that group of 3, way up the racetrack, and Eric Peterson almost made some contact with Jeff Highsong. That was a nail-biter there for drivers up inside the top 5.
That's the thing where it's kind of a double-edged
Oh!
sword because, hey, all that time you just gained, you just
Hobson
lost.
into the inside steel guardrail. He and Jim Brooks have gotten together. I'm pretty sure it was Hobson I saw pounded the wall off of turn 2. No caution yet again as the 63 trying to limp it back to pit road, but that's a long ways to go, and he's going to stop on the racetrack.
Yeah, and realistically,
Now the
caution's
caution's
out.
out.
Realistically, what happened was you pretty much hit it spot on where AJ Hobson got really tight, ended up hitting the wall, and Jim Brooks really had nowhere to go, just ran straight in the back of him, and then they both kind of slid through the infield a little bit. Jim Brooks managed to get it back going, but AJ Hobson just kind of stopped, and I'm not really sure why.
I'm gonna get your opinion on this one. Did Hobson purposely try to bring out the yellow flag there?
You know, the commentator in me is saying maybe the front wheel's locked and maybe it wasn't steering all that well. Like, let me look at his. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
it was actually Charles Teed and AJ Hobson who both got the wall.
uh, I mean, I think that may have been an intentional spin.
I'm pretty sure
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he hit the wall pretty hard. He could have bent something in the suspension. He could have easily had. He was trying to stop and try to get it back going because he wasn't sure what the wheel was facing. Again, I've done that before, but I don't. I can't really speak on that one.
taken on board with him there. Jim Brooks was the other car that got swept up, and we already documented Brooks had used his faster pair. Going to be some pretty extensive right side damage to Charles Teed as well. You'll see with this onboard with Hobson how both he and Teed, it's almost like the cars didn't turn straight up the track there and hard into the outside wall. There you see the hook by Jim Brooks, and there's no safer barrier down here. That is steel guardrail that AJ Hobson hit.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt because he did hit that steel guardrail really hard, and it does sometimes mess with the front suspension and lock up that tire. So again, I'm kind of divided on that one.
Noticing there that when he gets on the brakes on that straightaway, the left front does not move, the right front is still rolling.
I'd say it could be either a locked up tire from hitting the brakes, or again a locked up tire from damage. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions on that.
I'm fairly certain that the admins will take a look at that one.
Well, this caution, second caution of the day, second caution that comes out right on the eve of when these drivers are going to have to think about making green flag pit stops. It happened back just prior to the first round, and it happens here just prior to what was going to be the final pit stop of the day. So these guys should be good to make it on fuel once we get back green.
Two guys that are punching air right now has to be David Cook and Rick Ravon. I mean, they had that second spot really locked up, and now all this does is really bring Matt Wagner, Eric Peterson, a lot of those guys back into it. Same thing with Andrew Wood. It really brings Andrew Wood back into it, where now he has a shot to really fight back up here again.
I'd say maybe Craig Forsyth. We know he's got a fast race car. If he can make his way back up into the top five, I think he may still have a shot at this thing. You documented did not take on his faster pair, so he does have the opportunity to take it on now, and he was ahead of the leaders when that caution came out. Subsequently, Eric Schaus was the first car one lap down, so he'll get the lucky dog. So a couple
I
of the
mean,
guys that had some misfortune up inside the top five, all of a sudden, they've got new life here with less than 20 to go.
I wouldn't be surprised to see another caution because really what we have done is the caution has come out right at the edge of what you needed to make it. You can make it from here. If you're the lead car for this pack, I don't know if you can make it with not having that draft and having to tow guys along. But I mean, you've got 20 when we go green, it's about 19, 18 laps to go. You're gonna have everyone really just slamming it into turn one as hard as they can. I think we're gonna have a wreck here about 10 to go because we're shoving it 3 wide and we're trying to get to the front because it is time's a ticking.
AJ Hobson, Eric Schaus, and Charles Teed, they all took on their faster pair. I have a feeling maybe Forsythe's thinking along the same lines you were because he didn't take his faster pair on here, so kind of just holding on to it.
It would not surprise me to see another wreck. And looking at the guys up front, really the top 4 have not taken a faster pair. Andrew Wood and Charles Teed will be 2 of the guys who are really in the biggest risk for that. Of if there is a big wreck that breaks out, they are done for the day.
It's going to be a total of 19 laps to go when we get back under the green flag. Drivers looking to pick up the first checkered flag of the new 6th season of the Dark Horse Racing Series presented by Troy Lee Designs. And to carry momentum into next week, next Sunday night, we come to you live from the West Coast. We're going to be at Auto Club Speedway for some, well, speedway slash super speedway type racing. I mean, we've seen pack racing here tonight, and next week that's going to kind of be turn that up to level 11 because we've seen 3 wide tonight. We may see 4 wide and 5 wide next week.
Well, that said, I mean, what are you willing to do for a win? That is my big question. Where if it's a final lap and there's 2 guys ahead of you, and you're one of those guys who's getting that big tow, and do you think you're going to be able to take it in 3 and hold it without taking out the 2 other cars?
We'll have to wait and see. It's risk versus reward as it has been here tonight. 22 drivers still running, 20 of them on the lead lap, 2 drivers in the garage area, but they may
Big
be joined
divide.
soon, depending on what happens here. Is yeah, you had the 1 and the 6 down the inside, the 3 of Matt Wagner up on the top side there. A very interesting staggered looking start here.
I mean, I'm not really sure if Matt Wagner was really just trying to stick to the wall because he thought the leader was supposed to be up there, but all he did is really just open the door for David Cook to really make a run. David Cook's really making that run to the inside. Matt Wagner's taken out. They're 3 wide going into 2.
Slicing and dicing down the long pond straight into the tunnel turn as it's going to be David Cook making the move on the top. Wagner on the bottom. Oh my goodness, they almost made some contact there as well heading into turn 3. Rick Ravon pins it down to the inside looking for the top spot back, but it'll be Cook with the race lead heading back to the start-finish line. Peterson shows the nose for third.
Oh, we're going to go 3 wide. They may go 4 if Andrew Wood gets his way.
Well, Andrew Wood, we saw him earlier in the race have an opportunity at 3 wide, and he backed out of it, backed out of a 4 wide situation there. Been racing very smart as the driver of the 64, as it's a 6-car breakaway at the front of the field right now, but they are still slicing and dicing. Look at that late move to the top by Matt Wagner.
I'd say I don't really know about that move to the top, but maybe you can make it work on exit. I'd be really interested to see how this run in 3 is.
Single file top 3, then a battle for 4th. Now
there it is.
Second, Wagner to the inside of Rick Ravon, gets the power down, clears across the nose. Now he'll set his sights on David Cook down the front straightaway.
So I think I really caught on to what he's doing. He's sacrificing his turn 2 entry and exit, really taking that high aggressive line where, again, you're losing a lot of time, getting that big toe down the straightaway, and then shoving it into 3 and hoping it sticks so you can make that run on that leader, getting your good run out of 3, making your run into 1.
Well, Matt Wagner is no stranger to opening up a season with a victory back in Season 3. Took the checkered flag in the first race at Auto Club, looking to do it again for the 2nd time in his career.
Well, I said this whole top 6 is making me extremely nervous how far they're racing. But look at Jeff Hysong, Thaddeus McMurray, and Craig Forsyth worked his way back up.
Up to the 9th position right now is Craig Forsyth. He's in that 2nd group, though, out of touch with the top 6, so we'll see if he's going to be able to get that 2nd group organized enough. Teed, hard hit there for Andrew Wood, into the outside wall, and here comes the rest of the pack. Someone had to dart through the inside grass. I think that might have been Hacky Coates. Oh, and there's somebody hidden back there. Someone is flipping down the back straightaway. I believe that is Joe McAdory.
And unfortunately, it looks like I think you called it wrong. Looks like Charles T did get up, but it actually was Andrew Wood who paid the price.
Yeah, Andrew Wood, and oh man, caution is out for the third time tonight. Andrew Wood looks like his day is done. He had
Oh,
already taken on his fast repair. I'm amazed we didn't have more drivers involved since that took place up in the lead pack. We had that big second group coming in. A couple of drivers had to go through the grass, but he eventually did get tagged, I'm pretty certain, by the 312 of Joe McAdory, as we'll see on our replay.
and like I said, before you really even look at that and kind of judge Joe McAdory, I mean, kind of remember it. He was going about 190, about 100. Sorry, when he arrived on it, he was going about 194, and he had to make a split-second decision on what he what he thought was going to happen. He thought that Andrew Wood was going to go right back off the track. He decided to dart low, and unfortunately, he managed to stop it just in time. And that was all she wrote.
Man, that is a tough break there for Joe McAdory, who really has kept his nose clean here tonight, was just looking for a solid finish, but a wild ride through the infield grass. Now, there was one driver, and I don't know if Gap Wap came into play or what, but there was one driver that did make his way through the exact line that Andrew Wood's car traveled, and I don't know if they got a piece of the action or not. I'm trying to pinpoint
It
exactly who that
was
was.
it was Coates coming out of two, and it looks like he barely just missed him. He had to go through the grass just to miss him, but they got really close.
We are going to take an onboard with Alec Coates and or with Coates in just a minute here. See what he saw. That's some hard impact right there for both Andrew Wood and Joe McAdory. And as we saw too, just tough break there. Wrong place, wrong time with Teed entering low into turn one, and just looked like that car did not turn up the racetrack, and that tire to tire contact. As soon as they made contact, the left wheels of Andrew Wood came off the racing surface.
But I will admit, I am impressed with what I saw of Andrew Wood tonight. I think honestly, if he keeps showing up throughout the season, he is going to be a threat every night.
Oh,
Where
for sure.
I'd be very worried about him going through the rest of the season. Where yeah, I mean, hey, a DNF at your first race doesn't, you know, it's not a great start to your season. But with the speed he's shown, I'm very scared of him for the rest of the season.
Here's the onboard with the 10 of Alec Coates, and this avoidance right there. That's a bit of a wild ride there through the infield grass, utilizing those access roads and whatnot. But he is now up to P6 with that avoidance.
You know, these Indy cars make really good lawnmowers.
They do. Except the problem is the mowing deck's on the front. So third caution of the night. I mean, you called that one pretty well, knowing that we were going to probably see another caution or two prior to the end of this race. You know, the old adage, cautions breed cautions. We bunch them back up again. The aggressiveness we know is going to pick up even more getting closer to that checkered flag. So are we done with cautions at this point?
No. I mean, we may be done with cautions, but if there's a wreck, it's gonna probably be on. If there's not a caution for that wreck, it's gonna be a wreck on the white flag, and it's gonna be probably coming to the final corner. We saw it before. We may see it again. I'm looking at Craig Forsyth in seventh. That is a man with nothing to lose. He has got a fast repair in the bank. He is ready.
I'll tell you what, I mean, you talk about nothing to lose. Maybe the easiest race, not saying the easiest track, but the easiest race to be able to have the I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do whatever I have to take a checkered flag would have to be the season opener. Because we know that with the IndyCar series, it's all about consistency. There's no playoffs, there's no win in your in system. It all comes down to who's got the maximum amount of points at season's end. If you're going to take risks, do it now in the season opener. If you have a mistake, if you don't end up getting that checkered flag, if you finish way back in the pack, you've got another 12 races, some double points races along the way to be able to get those points in those positions that you lost back. But, you know, later on in the season, I don't know if you're in a situation like this, if you're going to go 110% and maybe put yourself in a spot that you might not think is going to work out to your favor.
Some guys are like that, where we rather risk it earlier in the season, trying to get a good enough jump where, hey, if I have a bad race here or there, it's not going to affect me as much. But there also is some guys who say, hey, I mean, it's not the time to be taking those risks. It's time to be taking points. And it's kind of one of those difference in strategies of what are you willing to do to win this race? And do you deem racing that aggressively and putting yourself at risk getting a DNF if that is worth it for this race? And some of those guys will say, hey, it's the first race. I've got no points on the line. Honestly, I want to try and get the best finish I can. I want to try and win the race. I'm going to shove it in there and I'll hope it sticks. Well, others are saying, hey, it's the first race of the season. I want to make momentum. I want to get a good finish so I know that, hey, going into the next race, even if I get a bad finish, I still got some points and I can still rely on that.
Dylan Moskowitz got the lucky dog under this yellow flag, so we will have 18 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Keeping track again of the drivers that took on faster pairs under this caution period. They would include Brandon Carl and Dylan McIntosh. So we are now around half dozen drivers that have used up their mulligan. A good portion of the field still have the faster pair intact. There's still quite a ways to go. Going to be 12 laps remaining here at the 2.5 mile speedway, so a lot can still happen.
Yeah, I'd be kind of entertained to see how this one's going to go. I see Matt Wagner's taking a little bit more of a defensive strategy on David Cook. Doesn't work as well as Rick Ray Vaughn manages to get around him, or at least side by side with him.
And you see that Rick Ray Vaughn able to get that topside momentum. Remember, he and David Cook worked together, so I'm certain there was some communication between the two of when David Cook was going to go. That kind of caught Matt Wagner flat-footed, and Ray Vaughn was able to take advantage.
I'm kind of seeing that top two, top three break away. But back there, I'm seeing Craig Forsyth. I'm seeing Charles Teed. I'm seeing Coates. They're all trying to make that charge catch back up.
I'm wondering about Charles Teed. He's already used his faster pair. Did not come to pit road under this caution period after we saw him make the contact with Andrew Wood. You have to wonder if those tires have cooled down enough for him to now be able to have the grip necessary to not slide up in the corner again like what happened just a couple of laps ago.
Honestly, the biggest concern I have for Charles Teed here at the moment has to be that side pod damage. Has to be the side pod damage and the floor damage. There's a little bit of a dent right below that aerodynamic fin. The aerodynamic fin has a few wrinkles on it, but it's not totally pushed in. But the floor is punched in, and that's what I'm worried about is the side force, how he's running in these corners. I think there's going to be really tight for him. I think it's going to be very hard for him to try and stay in the corners. And realistically, I saw it right there in turn 2, how aggressively he tried to get low on the track and ended up hitting that rumble strip. I think he's going to be trying to go lower and lower to compensate, and that's what's going to get him in trouble.
Boy, what a 3-wide move. Oh, spinner off of turn 3. That is Don Day in the 48 as he's heading down towards the inside pit wall. I think he got on the brakes in time before he hit it, but caution will fly with less than 10 to go.
Believe it or not, I don't think he actually hit anything.
I don't think he did either.
He almost got taken out by Dylan Moskowitz and Joseph Morales, but they both barely just missed him.
Boy, a wild ride there for Don Day, but yeah, to your point, I don't think he hit anything.
He hit the Armco as he was sliding to a stop, but honestly, he hit it at like 5 miles an hour, so.
Spins it right down to pit lane entry, so he'll take the opportunity to come down to the attention of his crew and get some service. Go back and look at a replay of what happened there. First incident we really had today that have taken place off of turn 3.
Yeah, it's one of those, it really looked weird. I think it's, again, one of our good friends, Gapwack, that kind of did him in there, and it really kind of bounced him off in a very odd angle. I mean, the car did a full 360, and it looks weird.
I think that might have been, was that Gary Corley in the 7 that he was side by side with? A little contact there with that Armco barrier with the.
I mean, he did a beautiful
right front
spin
wing.
to keep it off the big concrete barrier, but obviously slid into the Armco barrier. But again, he slid in about 5 miles an hour, maybe a little dent on there, but I don't think it's going to be anything huge that's going to affect it.
Here's going to be the onboard with the driver of the 48. That is indeed Corley in the 7. That is to his driver's right. Yeah, definitely gap whack there. The left front of Don Day and the right rear. Do you even call that contact?
Realistically, in my opinion, it's not really contact. Again, yes, if I hit it in like an actual road car, I'd consider it insurance worthy. But like I said, it doesn't really look.
It's a scratch.
It is but a scratch. I don't really think it's going to affect him very much. if anything, he can come down pit road and just check it out. But I don't really think even that's necessary.
Yeah, didn't even take on a faster pair, so he continues on. It's going to lose him some track position, though. He was, at the time, battling with Gary Corley for 12th, and it looks like he's going to be restarting back in around the 17th position. This caution going to put yet another driver back in the lead lap, Elmer Joseph. It's his lap back, so out of the 20 drivers that are still running, 19 will be on the lead lap. And, you know, you look at some of these guys that have just recently gotten some free passes like Dylan Moskowitz and now Elmer Joseph. They're deep in the field as the laps tick down and we have less laps left to run. Very unlikely they're going to make their way up here to win, but it's a big opportunity to be able to gain even 3 or 4 positions from where you were running -1 to the race leaders, and those positions equal points. And who knows, by the end of the season, the points you gain here today could be a difference maker into where you finish out the entire final season standings.
Now, let me go ahead and remind you, but this is not a series that utilizes green, white checkers.
Yes.
So realistically, I could see maybe us getting, if we have a quick caution, I could see us getting that caution in, just barely having maybe a 1 to 2 lap shootout.
I think we've run at the max 3 pace laps here under these caution flags. So yeah, we'd be looking roughly at our point of no return somewhere around the completion of lap 77. Next flag would then end the race.
I'm telling you, Seth, green, white checkers and double file, be unstoppable.
What, the exciting racing or the cautions?
Yes.
Both. All right, gotcha. So Matt Wagner, we saw him make that really aggressive 3-wide move on Rick Ravon and David Cook through turn 2 just prior to that caution coming out. He'll be the one to lead us back to green, and he's been the victim the last couple of restarts to the restart games of these two. Now he's the control car, so it'll be interesting to see what he does as the lead driver.
Yeah, I'd say he's kind of got a rare situation now where, again, he's kind of been at the disadvantage of 2 teammates this previous time. I think he's still at a little bit of disadvantage of Matt Wagner and David Cook being, of course, teammates and being so close to each other. But I think he has a rare opportunity of he can choose when he goes.
Ravon will line up in second, David Cook in third, and Eric Peterson and Craig Forsyth. He's back up here inside of the top 5. Do not count out that 27. That's a driver that spun off the straightaway between 1 and 2, hit the inside wall, was running a good portion of a long green flag run with no rear wing. He got himself back to the tail end of the lead pack with a caution, and now he's got a shot of winning the season opener. I mean, talk about an up and down day.
But like I said, he's trying. Best effort.
Yeah, Alex Coates there in 6th. Charles Teed 7th, Jeff Hysong, AJ Hobson in 8th and 9th. The highest running of the new faces here tonight. Thaddeus McMurray currently in that 10th position. He's been up here inside the top 10 pretty much the entire evening, despite not having the best of qualifying efforts. So we'll see if he can make his way even further here. 7 laps to go here at the start-finish line.
Eric Peterson was ready.
He was. I'm wondering if there was communication between Wagner and Peterson there for that restart.
Well, it was good enough to really make that battle for third a little bit concerning now. But look at Craig Forsyth on that bottom line.
Charles Teed right there with him as well. Peterson could not make the move around the top side of David Cook as Wagner snakes his way down the long pond straightaway, trying to take away trap from Rick Ravon. Ravon, though, will move to the race lead. Now he does the snaking down towards turn 3.
Forsyth up the 4th.
And David Cook gonna drive it in deep here into turn 3 for second. Wouldn't get it to stick. Now it's gonna be David Cook and
Ravon's
Matt
all the
Wagner.
way down near the wall.
My goodness, you've got that kind of boundary down there, but that's not out of bounds. It's, oh boy, David Cook with some connection problems right up here in the lead pack. That's a little scary.
That's the thing where you may have connection issues, but you're in that low lift category now where, listen, we're going, and if you blink, I'm gonna go there.
You are fully committed now as David Cook on the back of Ricky Ravon there on the inside. Matt Wagner trying the top line there with Eric Peterson. Ravon back and forth, trying to control the draft here down towards turn 3 again. And Forsyth, another move to the inside, almost contacted himself with Peterson for 4th.
And Coates has kind of just moonwalked his way back into this battle. Man, it's seen all the way down to the inside wall. I'm not really sure how much of an advantage that is.
Someone just dove onto pit lane. That was A.J. Hobson in the
Oh,
63, and
Peterson!
Peterson, what a save! All
I,
sorts of sideways, still keeps his momentum up. He's still in the 5th position.
but look
That
at that
car should
hornet's
have wrecked.
nest.
Oh,
Look at that
they're
hornet's
wadded
nest in the
up.
back.
Oh, Teed's in this mix. Schaus is now up here. That is McMurray in the mix. Jeff Heisong. Oh, Jim Brooks might have gotten the wall there.
We're 3 wide.
Nobody is giving an inch now. It is all take and no give as Schaus will now make his way back up into the top 5. Getting around Charles Teed. Up at the front, Rick Ravon continues to hold court side by side with Matt Wagner for the top spot going into 3. Or to turn 1, I should say.
And Forsyth still making that charge up the pack.
Wagner, I thought he was clear off of turn 1. Not quite. Still side by side. Side drafting heavily on the top is Rick Ravon, and Craig Forsyth looking for some room to make a move. Not sure which lane he wants to take.
And look at Coates. Coates is slowly working his way back up here.
I'm not sure what happened to David Cook, but all of a sudden he has exited out of the top 5. He's actually outside the top 10 now, back to 12th position.
Well, he's really just caught in this hornet's nest of all these cars. He is having trouble.
Matt Wagner, my goodness, I don't even think that was snaking. I don't even know what to call that down the front straightaway between him and Rick Ravon. But now Ravon on the top side, he'll go back to the race lead with a big push from the 27 of Forsyth. Shooting up the middle was Matt Wagner, but now it's going to be side by side for second between himself and the 27 of Forsyth. And you've got Alex Coates just sitting there in the catbird seat, 4th place, watching all this go on in front of him.
You know, Alex is just kind of bouncing up and down saying, please take all of you out. Please take all of you out.
Now he'll go side by side with Matt Wagner for 3rd. Up ahead, Forsyth and Rick Ravon playing a game of chicken of who can run the lowest there down to that inside wall.
That's it. They're trying. I think it's really going to be one of those last lap passes where you're going to be trying to time when you're going to make your final move and if you're going to have enough time and if you're going to have the space.
It is 2 laps to go, 1.5 now as this next time by they'll see the white flag. Can we get back to that white flag though before a caution waves? The way they're racing right now, I'm not so sure. Now it's going to be top side Forsyth, bottom side Rick Ravon. Here they come out of turn 3 looking for the flag stand and the white flag.
I don't know if I would have done that if I was Rick Ravon. I just kind of pinned myself down there.
And Forsyth takes advantage. Matt
Look
Wagner
at Wagner.
up the trap, top side, high right.
Oh,
Hits the green
Forsyth's
light.
around.
And so is Matt Wagner. Now it's Schaus and Coates side by side for second as Ravon looks to scamper away.
Oh, I don't think he's going to have enough time, though.
Let's see as they've got one more corner coming up here into the final turn 2 and 3. Oh, Coates is clear. Side by side for 3rd. Coates may have a big run here into turn 3. 1.5 car lengths between the top 2 through the final corner.
I don't think he has enough time.
Rick Ravon will win the season opener at Pocono. The former champion takes the first checkered flag of season 6. Coates crosses in 2nd, and Eric Schaus, who was a lap down about midway through this race, snaps the final spot on the podium.
That's just rolling back to that last lap. I don't know if that move was ever going to work, to be perfectly honest.
It was certainly going to be the longer way around the racetrack for Matt Wagner, especially through turn 1.
I just don't think you could have carried that much speed into the high lane. But obviously there was some, at least as I'm looking back at it, maybe you can see a little bit differently, but I could see some gap whack between the 27 and the 1.
Rick Ravon going to celebrate here with the Jim Brooks Wellness 200 victory to open up the season. We will look back at the replay of what ended up taking place on the final lap of this race. Matt Wagner crossed the line in 14th. Forsyth crossed in 16th. As Rick Ravon, he's no stranger to doing this. He's going to do some victory celebration here on the front straightaway at Pocono. I thought he was going to do a burnout, but instead he's heading down towards turn 1. We'll see if maybe he's going to do the Pocono burnout where you do it all the length of the front stretch.
That's gonna. I don't know if his
Maybe
Indy
just
cars have the ability for that one.
just a looks like a victory lap. Doing a victory lap here.
Uh,
So as he continues to celebrate, and we'll be talking with him in just a moment, let's go back now. Let's take a look at the replay of what happened here in turn one, three wide move for the race lead, pretty much for the race win.
like I said, there's gonna be a lot of opinions on that one. It kind of goes back to one of those. It's gonna be the court of public opinion of who feels like they got wronged and who feels like they had a shot that just ended up too short.
Matt Wagner just barely gets clipped. Forsyth was the meat in the sandwich. He was kind of at the mercy of wherever the driver on both left and right ended up entering into turn one. All he could do was just hold his line.
In Matt Wagner's situation, I mean, that's one of the scariest places to be in where you're entering a corner. I mean, you could even look on the onboard where you're entering the corner, you have that high line, you're even with the car beside you, you don't see him. And all you hear is tires screeching and you suddenly lose the back end of your car and you're pointing down. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh
That
gosh.
is the worst feeling known to man of, hey, yeah, I'm stable. I think I can get a good exit off this corner to bam. Uh-oh. This isn't good.
We had about two or three cars come flying in. I think they were actually down in the grass going into turn one. Moskowitz, Jim Brooks, and I think the other one might have been Brandon Carl ended up plowing into that wreck there with Craig Forsyth, and a couple of them went up into the catch fence.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, there was contact there between Brooks and another car.
they actually had contact before that corner.
Yeah,
So I'm looking back at it. Brandon Carl, I think, was trying to arc down for the corner. Jim Brooks was there, and they more or less they just didn't lift. They were just hanging on to it, and unfortunately, it hit like right in the perfect angle to slam them all in the Craig Forsyth. There is nowhere for them to go.
I mean, at first it kind of looked reminiscent to when Jimmy Johnson or Bubba Wallace end up having their brakes go out at Pocono in the Cup car, and they end up going through the grass there in turn one. Looked very similar to that kind of a line. Here's the onboard with Jim Brooks. See if the camera even survives. Gosh, look at the Brandon
Ooh.
Carl machine as it popped up into the air in that infield, and
So Seth, I'm sitting here, and there is some chat going on among the drivers. There is a lot of angry feelings.
a lot of hurt feelings for sure. One would assume we've seen a lot of contact exchanged here in this race, and this is the onboard with Craig Forsyth. I mean, it's the season opener. Adrenaline was at an all-time high, that's for sure. Oh gosh, my goodness. Craig Forsyth thinking, all right, well, I've spun out, and all of a sudden, in comes
Damn.
Brooks, here comes Moskowitz, yeah, Brandon Carl. You
That's
think
it.
it's over, and it
It's one
isn't.
of those things where, I mean, sitting in it when you're actually turned around on the track and you see all these cars coming to you, it is a scary feeling. Even though it's a sim, you're in your own home in your own comfy chair. I said that is scary. And looking at after the fact, you can giggle about it, but like I said, it's not a comforting feeling.
Celebration continues for Rick Ravon as he continues to make victory laps around the tricky triangle. Let's look at the finishing results here from tonight's event. Ravon with the victory. Alec Coates mentioned he seemed to be in the catbird seat there when he was running fourth in that lead group of four and almost was able to pull off the victory. Brings it home second. Eric Schaus, what a comeback run for him in third. Eric Peterson, I probably shouldn't say this, but he finished with all four tires on the ground after what we saw have happen to him so many times last season. He's going to get a top five and fourth. How about Gary Corley? I don't think we talked a whole lot about Gary here tonight, and he's going to get a top five run here this evening as well. High Song in sixth. Thaddeus McMurray, good run for him in his debut. Seventh. David Cook faded back there late. Still kind of curious what happened to him. I don't know
Ooh.
if he had contact or if he got up into the wall, but he drifted back outside the top 10, moved up to 8th for the finishing results. Don Day, who had that spin off of turn 3 that brought out the last official caution of the day, he bounced back for 9th, and Charles Teed was able to nab the final spot inside of the top 10.
Really good runs and kind of good rally backs for all of them.
Joseph, he got the lucky dog, last lucky dog. He finished in 12th behind Joseph Morales, Dylan McIntosh, Matt Wagner, AJ Hobson were the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. And then you go on down through this list here from Forsyth on down. These drivers did not make it back to the checkered flag. Forsyth, Brooks, Carlin, Moskowitz were involved in that wreck in turn one in the last lap. CJ Holloman on down. These drivers finished in the garage area here tonight as we saw the caution wave officially 3 total times this evening.
I'd
No,
say
correction,
that
4
is.
times.
I'm interested to get some perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna be getting
I
some
wonder if I
perspectives
wonder
of
if we
our.
can I wonder if we can also get some perspectives of Wagner and Forsyth if they haven't taken off yet.
We'll see if we can. Let's see if we can go down trackside and get a word with a few of our top finishers here. Let's see if we can dial up third place finisher Eric Schaus. Eric, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey guys, how are you?
I'll tell you what, an adventurous season opener for you, it certainly seemed like. You had that contact early on between yourself and the 27. No caution comes out to save you. You lose a lap, you get the lucky dog, you battle back for third. I mean, never give up attitude here tonight, that's for sure, it seemed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a heck of a way to get a podium on the first race of the season. So, no complaints here.
So I've got to ask you, your perspective, when you're coming down the front straightaway, you're battling with Coates and you're saying, hey, man, I think I can get a good P4, P5 out of this. And you go into turn one and you see the top two cars start spinning around. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well, that was it's the thing you're hoping for the whole time, I think, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting behind cars. Anybody in front of you needs to spin and get out of the way. So, pretty happy about that.
Now, we know that this was going to be a very difficult track for a season opener. They don't call it the tricky triangle for nothing. A couple of things that I was observing when watching you out there, you seem to run maybe one of the higher lines off of turn 3, got very close to that outside wall. Was that just a personal preference as a driver, or was that kind of an attestament to just how much of a struggle it was to keep these cars underneath you when that right front tire heat was starting to build up?
It was more of a personal preference. On this track, I like to just play around a lot and go with whatever line feels good at the time, and that high line was feeling okay. And if I was losing some momentum going through it, I would pick it back up again on that front straight, so it wasn't a big deal. It was saving the tire a little bit, I think.
So Matt and I, we were talking here about a driver's mentality with a season opener, especially in a series like this, where it comes down to consistent runs. Obviously, wins are important, but there's no playoffs, there's no postseason. It's whoever accumulates the most points by the end of the season. But with it being the season opener, where you kind of set the table for the rest of the year, do you come into this race with maybe a little bit more aggression to try and get that checkered flag, knowing that this is kind of setting the table, now you build off of it?
Yeah, I think some drivers probably take that approach. The other way to look at it is it's early. You don't need to score perfectly the first time around. It's better to maybe survive a lap or survive a race or two, get some points on the board. That was more the approach I took, I think.
Well, Eric, a tremendous comeback run for you there. We knew you had a strong car in the early going, and you mounted a great comeback there from the midway portion on. You bring it home P3 here tonight, a track that you've taken a checkered flag at here in this series in the past, so congratulations on that. And now we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Shout out to Dark Horse and all the admins for putting this on. Thanks to my wife for supporting. Shout out to Jim Brooks. He does a lot for these IndyCar races and the leagues in general that we all run. So shout out to him. And shout out to you guys. Thanks for doing the broadcast.
That's Eric Schaus. Third place run here tonight in the season opener at Pocono. Congratulations, and best of luck keeping this momentum up when we go to Auto Club next week.
Thanks, guys.
Does not appear that we have our second place finisher Alec Coates available right now. If we end up seeing him by time we get done with the race winner interview, we'll see if we can get a word with him. But we'll now go down to Victory Lane and see if we can dial up our race winner, Rick Ravon. Hey Rick, Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Hey, how you doing?
Man, I'll tell you what, I keep saying that when we do these races, I would love us to have a heart monitor on for knowing what the drivers are feeling inside of these race cars. That was a wild run to the checkered flag, a lot of it going on in your rearview mirror. I mean, just how much were you looking out the front of your race car?
I was looking out the front 100%. I had the, I had the rear view up top, and I was just kind of keeping an eye on with my peripheral because I had to focus on being smooth, and quick. And the last few laps, I had to be very defensive because Matt Wagner was so fast tonight, and Forsyth was up there. They had problems early, but then they came back, and it was great to see them up there. That last lap was intense. I went down to the inside. I wanted to protect the bottom. Forsyth gave me a little room, so I moved up, to make the arc going into the corner, turn one, and then I guess that Matt Wagner jumped up there. That's understandable. It's the last lap. You want to go for it, but we went in there three wide, and I guess I think there may have been a little bit of net code, but Forsyth and I were pretty close going in there, and I turned into the corner, and the next thing I know, I saw in the rear view there were a couple cars going into the wall, and I had a little bit of a gap, and it was a little bit of a relief. But I have to take a look at the replay on that one. Craig said something to me, good win, but I'm not sure why it's something, and I'm going to have to go back and listen to what he said. Not really sure what happened there, but we were just racing hard.
So I've got to ask you, what about the range of emotions coming throughout that final lap of, hey, you're going to turn one side by side, you suddenly are in out
Side by
exit.
side by side.
Yeah, you're going out the exit of one onto that straight, and you're like, hey, I've got no one behind me, I've got no one beside me, I'm all happy and fine. And then you come out of turn two into turn three, and you notice you've got coats in your back bumper, like, okay.
Well, racing all night, you kind of get a sense of the closing rate, and I knew when I got to turn two that I was going to beat him to the line. He didn't have enough time to catch me, and there was clean air in front of me, and I was just going to take the inside groove and flat foot it, because we had so many yellow laps in that last stint that the tires were still fairly fresh. So once we got to turn two, I really felt like I had it wrapped up, so I wasn't too concerned about the run that Coates had. A nice job for Coates, by the way. Hacky Coates, what a name, Hacky! Isn't that wonderful? Hacky Coates, first race with Dark Horse, and he finished the second. I got to hand it to him. That's good. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with this season.
Now, Rick, obviously, you had to fight for it here tonight, but you become the second driver to go coast to coast, pole to win in the season opener. We saw you the first stint there. Before that first caution came out, you spent those first 20 laps out in front. Afterwards, we're back in around the third, fourth position. Was there a period of transition of having to figure out what the car was doing when you were in that dirty air?
Well, yeah, we my teammate Dave Cook and I, we went out and practiced that. We wanted to feel what the dirty air was going to feel like, so we had a pretty good idea going into the race. But after that first pit stop, I mean, we were about to come in, and then the yellow came out. I said, "Oh boy!" I kicked in the clutch and coasted. I think I had 0.2 of a gallon, but that was kind of like hitting the reset button. And I knew that we could get about 20 laps to a tank, so I didn't want to push it in that second stint in case it went green the rest of the way. So I was just kind of coasting behind Forsyth and Eric Schaus. I know Eric Schaus passed me at one point, and then he wanted me to go back by, and I didn't. Then he slowed down, and I slowed down behind him, and I'm like, he wants me to go by, but I want to save fuel. It was pretty funny, but it was nice to run up there 1-2 with Dave Cook, my teammate, for a while. We were kind of sad to see the yellow come out at that point because we had a pretty good lead, and we felt like we could maybe run 1-2 tonight. That would have been great.
Definitely shuffled things up, that's for sure. Made it exciting there at the end, though, with those late race restarts. But, Rick, you pick up the victory here to open up the season. Of course, a former champion of the series, so certainly looking like you may be staking your claim early on here to maybe be a multi-time champ. Join Nick DeGroot in that regard. Good first step here. And now we're going to hand the mic over to you, let you do some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Well, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you for the life you've given me. Thanks to you guys, Matthew, Seth, up there in the FRN booth. Thanks for broadcasting our races. What a fantastic job you guys always do. Look forward to the replay. Um, Thanks to the guys at Dark Horse, obviously Eric Peterson and Charlie Teed. It was Charles, now it's Charlie. Uh, Thanks to those guys for putting this together and all the drivers out there. And I want to congratulate Hackey again on second place in his first time out. It was great to race out there with Eric Schaus and Peterson, Corley, and Forsyth and Wagner and all these guys. I'm kind of missing Nick DeGroot. I wish that he was with us this season because I love racing with that guy. Class act all the way. And I just want to thank everybody watching, all the fans out there, everybody who supports this league. Thank you so very much, and get ready. It's going to be a great season.
There's no better way to open up the season with the checkered flag, and it belongs to Rick Ravon here tonight at Pocono Raceway. Congratulations on a job well done. Best of luck next week as we head to the West Coast at Auto Club.
Thanks so very much. Auto Club's going to be a great race. You're going to see these guys stuck together like a bunch of fireflies. I'm looking forward to that. That one's going to be good.
Absolutely. Rick Ravon, your winner here tonight in the season opener. All right, so let's see if we can get another perspective here on what went on in turn number one. A driver that did not come out on the winning side of it. He ends up finishing in 14th place here tonight. Let's see if we can dial up Matt Wagner. Hey, Matt Wagner, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, you got me. I'm still around.
I'll tell you what, I mean, obviously there's elation, there's heartbreak. It always seems to happen here in these type of races. And 3 wide move there for the lead, potentially the win going into turn one on that final lap. You just barely get clipped there when Forsyth goes around. Obviously, there's got to be some disappointment, but you had a strong car here tonight.
Oh, most definitely. It was really hard to pass at some point during the race, about 15 laps on your tires. And uh, the start was not very good, as you can see. The blinking issue I had, then it went away. Then I could start racing again. I had a few moments in the pits where I kind of missed my stall a couple of times, and that caution came out, which I was kind of wanted to see how it would play out. And then we got up toward the front, and the very late caution, that last caution we had, got the lead. And my plan was just to ride behind them too, and hopefully do a slingshot pass for the win. That high line was so key. Uh, I was going for it. The high line. I thought I was clear. I mean, I I had no idea that uh, that Craig got hit, and I was like, "Whoa!" I said, "Well, that's pretty unfortunate for him," but it took us out too, and it was pretty disappointment for us. And um, we had a very strong run today. It was just very heartbreaking.
So uh, I'll go away from the heartbreaking stuff and ask the
How
more
about the
general
positive
question.
stuff?
Yeah. Well, actually, maybe not this is as positive, but I have to ask, how are you? I noticed you kind of got a handle on it later, but those restarts when you were battling both David and Rick, I mean, I noticed you're having a lot of trouble just firing off of that. I mean, how did you kind of get on top of that and kind of work around it?
Well, I know they're in the same chat and in communication with each other. So if I try to split them up, it'll cause more havoc for them two guys. So that was the plan. It seemed to work for a little while, and then them two would get out in front of me, and then it was it was pretty fun with them guys. It was tough, but hopefully we can race those guys again at some point.
Let's talk about something positive in the fact of where we're going next week. I mean, Auto Club Speedway, you took a checkered flag there in the season opener back in season three. We know you're very good at the big race tracks where you have to have a fast race car, be able to control the draft, be able to utilize the draft to your benefit.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, got to have some confidence going into that one to gain back points you might have lost here tonight. Maybe get that checkered flag that you feel you were owed here this evening.
Oh, most definitely. I'm definitely owed. Um, we could have had a much better finish going into Auto Club. But Auto Club as a whole, uh, I love that racetrack. It's one of my favorite ones. Looking forward to going there. Hopefully we can pull out a win and get a little redemption on what happened here today.
Well, Matt, obviously, I know it's not the finish you wanted, but certainly take nothing away from the performance you had here tonight. Strong race car all night long, there when it mattered at the end of this race. We're going to now give you the opportunity, though, to do some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Well, there's a couple people I like to shout out. I like to shout out to Tyler Graff who did my paint scheme. It's a a Joseph Newgarden throwback scheme. I really love it. He did a wonderful job with it. Um, to my parents, I know they're watching here tonight. And shout out to the crew, all of Charles Teed, Eric Peterson, putting all this together, getting this season back going again. It feels so good to get back in the car and race with these guys once again.
Well, Matt Wagner gets a 14th place run here tonight. Certainly not indicative of where he was all night long, but he'll look to bounce back next week at Auto Club. Congratulations, though, on the good performance in this race, though, Matt, and hopefully we see you bounce back.
Yeah, we'll bounce back. We'll see you, buddies.
All right, we actually now have our second place finisher on standby. Let's see if we can dial up Alec Coates. Hey, Alec, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, you guys got me.
Yes, we do. Well, man, I'll tell you what an incredible drive by you here tonight. You got a front row seat of what was going on with the top three up ahead of you. Next thing you know, you're running P2. You're closing in on the race leader there, coming out of the tunnel turn and heading for turn three. I mean, was there anything do you think you could have done to be able to get just a little bit closer, have a shot at it down the front straightaway to the start finish line?
Probably not. I think I was too far back. And honestly, I mean, I know that's part of open wheel racing and racing in general, but I mean, you can't do much with the weaving and stuff. You can't really get that much of a pull. So I was kind of hovering around the top 10 all night. So I'll take a P2, even though I would have liked to have a run at that first spot.
Let me ask you this. 'Cause I asked the same thing to Schaus, and Schaus had a very interesting reaction to it. So let me ask you. I mean, you're coming across the line, white flag. You're battling side by side with Schaus. You're probably thinking, okay, I got probably a good solid fourth, fifth here, at worst. And then you go on the one, and then you notice the top two cars in front of you get each other taken out, and you barely miss them. I mean, what's going through your head?
Yeah, no, I mean, I dodged them all night. I think you guys caught my excursion through the grass on camera as well, but earlier in the race. But yeah, no, I mean, my focus kind of shifted there, and I was like, all right, well, I mean, let's give it a run. I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to get there, like I said, with the draft breaking going on, but I just for once had a little luck on my side tonight and turned it into something real positive.
I gotta ask you this, Alex. I've been kind of sitting on this for the last 10 minutes or so. You know, when we come on the air here, we have been provided with information about the drivers, and they give us little tidbits and whatnot of stuff that we can be able to use as well. iRacing goals under your profile. Finish ahead of Charles Teed. Well, you did that here tonight. So does the goal remain the same here for the remainder of the season, or having a good run tonight? Do we have a different goal going into Auto Club?
Oh, that's always going to be the goal. I'm going to go out and try to beat Teed. But no, now I mean, I was probably looking at a little more part time, but at this point, with this good of a run to start the season, with this big of a field, I got to keep it rolling. So yeah, I mean, I can start to shift some goals, but the beat Teed's going to stay the same throughout the season.
Oh, it was a great run tonight for sure. Started this race from outside of the top 10 and 12th. He brings it home P2. That is Alex Coates. And Alex, we're now going to hand the mic over to you and let you do some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mainly just the guys that run this league. They do a great job, and they always work with my league on Thursday nights as well, helping us out there. So Teed, I think Corley was a big part of this season. Eric, obviously, is always there. Everyone runs a great league. You guys put on a good show. And then TJ McMurray, he had a good run tonight, solid top 10, and he always keeps our cars looking good with the scheme. So gotta give him a little bit of a plug.
Well, it's a great way to open up the season for Alec Coates. Brings it home runner up here in the season opener at Pocono. Congratulations once again. And hopefully we can see you continue this momentum as we head next week to Auto Club.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
So the celebration continues down in Victory Lane. A lot to unpack here tonight in this season opener, Matt. A lot of different varying of opinions, not only at the end of the race, but it kind of seemed like all through this race. Little incidents here and there. I mean, if this is an indication of what to expect here this season, it's going to be tuned into every single lap because you might miss something.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, look at last season's Pocono race. Look at this season's Pocono race. If you look at last season's Pocono race and this Pocono race, it was night and day. Where yes, you still have that battling for first, and you still have everyone fighting in pit strategy and whatnot. But this was, hey, we were throwing blocks that realistically should never have worked, and they were sticking. People were saving cars. It was the driving was on another level.
Now, I'm sure there were different agendas coming into this race. For some drivers, they felt I can go out there and win this thing. For some drivers, they, felt maybe they had a top 5 or a top 10 car, and there might have been some here that were just trying to get some experience, get used to the driving styles of others here in the series, and just try and survive the season opener. But now points have been acquired. Now drivers are going to either try and keep the good momentum going or try to bounce back from a poor performance here tonight. And we're putting them at a track that can hold them 4 and maybe 5 wide at Auto Club next week. So, I mean, what are we looking at based off the racing we saw here tonight when we go to
See,
Auto Club?
a points racing is almost like gambling in a way. Oddly enough, I mean, here's the thing: when you win, you think, "Oh yeah, I can keep this up. I can keep winning. I can keep doing this." And it's either it keeps going for a while, but that first loss really hits hard, and it's how you bounce back from that first loss that really matters. For guys who have already lost everything or didn't ever had anything to begin with, I mean, the only way's up. So I mean, you can't go worse from here.
Well, this has certainly been a great showcase of what we can expect to see here for the remainder of the season tonight at Pocono. Next week, we head to Auto Club Speedway. It's actually going to be the second longest race of the season outside of the Indianapolis 500. So, be interesting to see about a lengthy race like that, just what type of strategy we might see come into play. And of course, that race will be taking place next Sunday night with the green flag scheduled to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Matt, I mean, I can't say it enough. What an exciting season opener here tonight at Pocono. Appreciate you joining me in the booth for it.
Oh, I've always loved being here, but I cannot wait for a few tracks on this schedule. I think New Hampshire is going to be really fun.
Oh, there's a lot of tracks I'm looking at here too that I'm thinking might be our proverbial X factors potentially into who will be battling for the championship and who will not. Thank you to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight from Pocono. Rick Ravon, your winner. We'll see you guys next week at Auto Club. From Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.